think when we talk about the hormones with IVF and egg freezing, it's really important that we understand our natural hormonal cycle to start with. So the hormones that we use are all basically trying to mimic what naturally occurs in our body. And so in a menstrual cycle, we have our brain, also a part of our brain called the hypothalamus, which releases a hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone, or GnRH, you might have seen it abbreviated for. And that is released, which tells our pituitary gland, which is like our hormone center, to release something called follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Those two hormones then tell our ovary that we're sort of ready for the next stage of our cycle, and that then creates our follicles and our eggs. It tells our uterus to have a really nice thick lining, and it allows estrogen, progesterone, and a few other things to be released. So when we're looking at the hormones that we're using, usually in a cycle, we would be stimulating our ovaries to create lots of follicles, and we do that through using FSH, or follicular stimulating hormone. We then want to make sure that we don't ovulate too early. So we want to make sure that we can go in and collect all of those eggs that we have created. So we use a GnRH, version that will block our brain from telling our ovaries to release the eggs. So that's what, if you've heard of the LH surge, the LH surge is what tells our body that we need to ovulate. So it blocks that LH surge. We then do want that LH surge to occur once we have once we're about to collect all the eggs. And what that does is it creates, it finishes off the egg maturity. So it makes sure that when we collect the eggs, we don't just, have however many eggs that we get, but we have really good quality eggs that are mature and that will fertilize and will be able to survive freezing and thawing and all that sort of thing. And then if we're going on to an IVF cycle, so once we've collected those eggs, we have what we call luteal support, which is where we use progesterone, and that makes sure that our uterus is, the lining is nice and thick, and that our body is like ready for a pregnancy, basically. So there, I guess, the four main hormones that we are using in that instance. Each protocol will be slightly different with how and when we use those things, but generally it's our FSH injections, which are stimulating as many follicles as we can get. We then have our GnRH antagonist, which is stopping those follicles from being prematurely, or the eggs from being prematurely released from our follicles. We then have our trigger injection, and our trigger injection is basically the GnRH, which our brain is usually releasing, and that's telling our body that we're almost ready, and it matures those eggs, and then we sort of look out our progesterone if we need to, if we're not just freezing or if we're going into a fresh transfer.
I guess as well, is that why, like how you're saying we're sort of growing all the follicles in that one cycle, is that why women often going through IVF egg freezing treatments feel bloated? I know when I went through egg freezing, I felt like I was growing a baby because it felt like I just had they were growing.
Absolutely. So it's bloating is a huge thing that people go through. There's a few different reasons for bloating. So one is, as you said, just the physicality of it. You, all of a sudden, your ovary, instead of it being this size, is this size because you've got so many mature follicles on it. So that can be really uncomfortable, and it can be, feel like you've got a really big pressure in your stomach as well, because you have an organ which is much bigger than it usually would be. The bloating also occurs from some of the hormones as well. So the FSH hormone, which is the one that we are using to stimulate our follicles, does cause bloating as well. So it's sort of a little bit of both. You can get some fluid retention and that kind of thing when you're using that hormone. So it's kind of like a one added on, one on the other. It does go away. It's only during that sort of amount of time, but it can feel like it'll never leave.
I know. I remember the feeling.